you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Bienvenidos, Freight fans. Welcome to the Horror Show. I am Jaime and Fuego, and I'm here to talk about a new horrific release that, well, when Fandango is giving away free codes to watch a film, I'm not going to say that that gives an indication, because I actually liked what in the Lost Lands or whatever the last time that I saw them doing this sort of business. But yeah, I'm here to discuss The Home, which is from James DeMonaco. I mean, the creator of the Purge franchise. And dude, I didn't like the first Purge movie very much, but the second and third were the second and third Purge were gangster, awesome. Frank Grillo, like, I thought DeMonaco was really like getting into his game, man, and he has apparently been teasing the fact that the Purge is going to be coming back. But the big divisive thing about this movie that I have to preface right off the bat is Pete Davidson. I know a lot of peeps who love Pete Davidson, think he's funny as all hell. Spent a lot of time on Saturday Night Live. My little brother, who I've been spending a lot of time with this last week, thinks that Pete Davidson's funny as hell. I don't like Pete Davidson, dude. I've never been a fan of that cat. And so, you know, he was in the Bodies. He had the, you know, I would say funniest bit in that entire very mediocre movie. But, yeah, so he is the star in this one, just after a supporting role, you know, in the aforementioned. And he is a guy who has his older brother. He's in a foster situation, mind you. And so he has his older brother die after going to college, and it really wrecked him. I'm going to do a spoilers at the very end of this. It's going to be very brief, but there's no way that I can't spoil this movie. So anyway, Davidson's older adopted brother dies, you know, like, the whole mantra is like, beyond blood or whatever, you know, like we are family beyond blood. Anyway, I don't remember the exact adage that they're so big on, but so anyway, he is a troubled youth that turns into a troubled adult after the loss of this brother under mysterious circumstances, and he's doing some spray painting stuff, and then ends up being taken in, and yeah. His very privileged adoptee black father is like, yo, talk to the judge and got you off, but you have to actually go and serve at this old folks home, and you got to do 6 months as the soup there. And he's just like, what? And he's like, hey, but no jail time, whatever. So overall thoughts about this premise. There's menacing things going on at this place. And that's all that I will say, because the third act is where it reveals that DeMonaco is trying to go, because he co-wrote the script, balls deep, crazy out of its mind, this movie. I was entertained by the insanity of this movie in the third act. I genuinely was. There are some great performances from some of the older people that Pete Davidson, like, there are elderly actors in this that are acting circles around Pete Davidson. You know, Norma's character, Lewis's character, if I remember correctly. Like, yeah, they are making him look pedestrian in a lot of ways. But maybe his galumpy derpiness works in the film, and that's why James DeMonaco wanted to actually cast him in the first place. Because of the fact that when this film goes for it, as stupid as it is a lot of the time, damn does it go for it, and it's really satisfying, actually. So, yeah, as I mentioned a bit about the story already, you know, when Pete Davidson's character actually gets there, he starts interacting with some of the locals, so to speak. And so there was an older woman named Norma that strikes up a friendship with him, and she's super sweet and almost like grandmotherly to him, and asking him about, why are you here? Why are you troubled? So on and so forth. She was awesome. She was one of my absolute favorite characters in the film. And then my other favorite character in the film is this guy, Lewis, who is, He's an older thespian. Man, he's got some great hair for his age. I absolutely thought he was gangster in that regard. A long-haired man, but he is somebody who had done work on Broadway, and now he is one of the few who is trying to mobilize all of these elderly people to stay interested in something. And it's a conceit that he says that I thought was really great at one point in the film. Now, actually reiterates it a couple times. He's like, death is not what inevitably kills us. It's disinterest. It's losing your just passion for something. And whether it's art, whether it's creativity, and those go hand in hand, obviously, but family, story, whatever, it's when you start to disengage, like that great Megadeth song from The World Needs a Hero. You just disconnect. I love that idea from him. And so those two are kind of like the yin and the yang of the male and female sort of just guiding lights for Davidson's character. But as I shift into acting, Davidson sucks for most of this movie, dude. He's not very good. He's off-putting. I feel like if this movie was cast with a different lead, it might have been more successful, but I don't know with... Sorry, just, wetting the whistle real quick, but with how the script goes, I don't necessarily know if when it gets into a more instance of physicality, if things could be particularly saved. But what I'm here to dispel, similarly as I did with, Ritual or whatever, the one that had Dan Stevens and Al Pacino, this film is not as terrible as everybody's making it out to be. In fact, with the third act taken into consideration, I was so much more amused with how bonkers this movie went in the third act, which is why I want to spoil things here in a bit. And I'm really anxious to spoil things and wrap up this review at this particular point, because there's so much that I can't talk about. But, Davidson sucks for most of the movie. However, I will admit, in, back half of the second to third act, I was starting to at least buy him a little bit more in this role as this lead. Despite the off-putting nature, he's still off-putting, but I was believing this particular character who was off-putting being in this situation. I guess if that makes any sort of sense. And so, technically speaking, it's very well made. Very well made. You can tell that James DeMonico, he got some budget together for this, man, and the fact that, said studio shoveled some money his way to make this sheer lunacy as it becomes. It doesn't start out that way. As I said, it's all in the trailers, right? It's all in the trailers. But, yeah, as you see, he goes and he starts working at this home. There's weird stuff going on level 4. He starts to investigate, whatever. It's when you start in the third act to realize the full extent of what's going on that this movie goes batshit crazy off the walls, and that's where it actually became relatively memorable for me, and will have one of my favorite sequences that I've ever seen this year. Maybe. I mean, it's in contention at this particular point. So, it does get gory. We see people impaled after being thrown off of a 4th floor, and the gates with the little spear spiky sort of things impaled on that, and you see people ripping flesh off and everything. And dude, it is good. It looks good. It looks gnarly and nasty. So props to the gore and the practical effects department, because this does have an immense amount of practical effects. I give it major nods in that particular regard. But there's really not a lot more that I can say. I mean, score, it's not really memorable. There's nothing that stood out to me. But I'm hankering to get to what happens in the third act of this freaking movie, man. So, spoilers, whatever. I don't think anybody even saw this damn movie. Even the people who were offered a free promo code from Fandango. There were people who walked out in the theater, by the way, during this movie, which I found so funny. I'm assuming those are the peeps who didn't pay anything for it and, used that Fandango code. But So in the third act, when all the reveal after double cross reveal after double cross reveal after, like, there's a myriad of them, it is hilarious as anything you will see. And so you're like, okay, yeah, experiments on these old people, I know what's going down, whatever. And then you realize that the experiments on these old people are actually trying to do this whole, like, it's reveal after reveal very rapidly. So I'm just going to give you the gist of all the reveals, really, since I don't remember them in consequential order after watching it yesterday. But so you find out that the experiments are actually being done because there is a gland behind the right eye, hence the thumbnail, where you can apparently extract some sort of, like, secreted fluid that is part of the fountain of youth. And so if put into all of these different people, it will give them some sort of agelessness. And so you're like, okay, that's one conceit, great. And then you find out that it's not actually an old folks' home that they're in. It's actually a bunch of people who are acting, and it's a facility where all of the old people are the ones who are actually taking in what is being extracted and put into everybody else. Fourth floor, where it's very obvious early on that those are the people who are being experimented on, having extracted stuff. Those are all younger people, so they look old because of the fact that they have had too much, like, extracted from them and put into all these other old people within the home. And then, which I actually leaned over and said to the girl right next to me, it was like, oh man, I bet his step-parents are into it, and that his older brother didn't even die and was just used as an experiment, and they're going to do the same thing with Davidson. Straight up. No lies. On my grandma Yaya's grave, dude. And yeah, that's exactly it. This foster family that Pete Davidson was adopted by are farming kids and using them to go into this place and then have the extracted fluid and then stay up there until they're worthless and thrown into the incinerator. It sounds so zany, and maybe under the hands of a better director than James DeMonaco. I'm not saying that he's a bad director. He was great for the action-centric sort of stuff that we saw in some of those Purge films, but I don't know. There's not a hand of temperance of any kind in this. There's also some warbly, wonky subplot of zany about one person who shows up on his computer screen and is, like, teasing him with sex stuff, and then turns out to be somebody who's like, no, you're totally... And then you're like, oh, they were just throwing him off the scent? There are so many inconsequential bits of insane stupidity. Like, there are so many moments in this movie where I was like, what in the hell were they thinking when they did that? However, all those conceits about the mythology of... Yeah, so Davidson ends up, after they all find out and reveal themselves to him, after he finds out his mom and dad, were in fact behind sending him there and whatever, and they're going to start using his own chisel. It had been hinted at, I think, early in the film, but the brother who died committed suicide. No, he's actually one of the patients up in 4. And so he gives him some sort of, like, I don't know, adrenaline liquid or whatever. And I'm going to give myself some adrenaline liquid right now. Because one of the most gangster sequences that I have seen on screen this entire freaking year is when Pete Davidson, from the verge of death and, being there to have his crap extracted, and for this secret society, who also, mind you, does photos exactly like The Shining. Kubrick's The Shining, by the way. Like, black and white, everybody's sort of like blatant ripoff. So fucking dumb, dude. Anyway, so he gets the sauce in him, and then he, like, rages up and rises. And what's he gonna do? Oh, he's gonna kill all these old people. And so we have a near 10-minute sequence of Pete Davidson going around with an axe and with, like, and he is just, not just the older people though, but, like, the orderlies who are apparently all in, because they're not orderlies, they're all part of this secret community, and they're like, oh, I'm 112, I'm a whatever. So he goes and he's like slicing stomachs open, and like intestines are flying out, and he's like putting axes in people's heads and all this other stuff. And dude, as far as like for carnage candy and crazy, this sequence was incredibly satisfying, over the top, and super hilarious. It's why I had to spoil the movie. But then after he gets done killing everybody, it goes right back to the stupidest of stupid, which is unfortunately the MO for this film. Even though I found some redeeming qualities about it, because he's like, he rescues everybody from up on floor 4, and he's like, he says to a character right before he kills them, you know, a few minutes before, he's like, I know how to save them, and I'm taking you back. So he's apparently going to take all of the stuff from the, you know, back behind the right eye of all these different people, and he's going to apparently rehabilitate, presumably, despite having no medical expertise of any kind. He knows how to do it, so he's going to do it, and he's going to save them all. Saves his brother, you know, he was the old guy. This movie was a... it was a trip, dude. It is one of the strangest things that I've seen this entire year. But you know what? Despite how dumb it is a lot of the time, I give it mad props. Because it goes for it, dude. It really does. So, in any event, I still have one more to talk about, guys. So, I extend the grande gracias. Thanks for putting up with my rantings about The Home, starring former comedian Pete Davidson. Guy that I can't respect aside from the fact that he pulled amazing looking women. I've been Jaime and Fuego. You can find them all on all social media sectors: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTokies, all that craziness. But the most important thing is for you to like, share, and subscribe here on the channel. Also, if you are down with some horror comic stuff, Cecil, the founder of The Feast, specifically has a channel called Horror Show Cecil that is on TikTok, where he breaks down a lot of stuff that, you know, you guys may find very interesting that is not here on the main channel. This movie was bonkers. I almost feel like exhausted even talking about it. But have you seen this movie? Please, if you have seen this movie, I want to hear your thoughts about it right there in the comments below. So anyway, I've been Fuego, y'all been Rad Status, and yeah, until next time, Fright fans, remember, stay scarred.